Today I'm going to show you how to make a bean dip recipe. So the reason why I chose this recipe because it's very simple to make and it's cost effective and it's packed with nutrients, essential for both adults and children. So let's begin by, well, first of all, I do want to identify the cost. So when buying all the ingredients for what you're going to be using for this recipe, it came out to be about $10. But when you do the math for the quantity of each ingredient for this recipe, it was about $2.60. So just a tip on that. All right, so let's first, before we start making our food, you want to make sure you wash your hands with warm water and soap for at least 20 seconds. So let's start doing that. Let's start off with our primary ingredient, which calls for beans. So now on the recipe it says to use kidney beans, but I'm going to be using black beans today, just based on cultural preference and taste. Okay. So just a nutrition fact about beans is that they're very high on fiber. So a lot of children do experience constipation. So consuming a high fiber diet can ease digestion. So just some tip on that. And I know on the recipe it says to keep fluid. I like to rinse out canned food just because it eliminates some of that sodium. So yeah, so it's really up to you whether you want to keep it or not. Alright, so now that we're done rinsing out our beans and putting it in the blender, we're going to continue with our wet and dry ingredients. So for this recipe, it requires 3/4 of a teaspoon for chili powder, an 1/8 teaspoon for cumin, and a tablespoon of white vinegar. Okay, so we're gonna mix that in the blender. All right, so now let's blend it out. All right, so as you guys can see, it's kind of hard for the blender machine to get some of the beans. It requires some fluid, so that's where you can use the fluid from the can, or you can use some water. So I'm gonna be using some regular water today. Okay. So let's go. Alright, so now that we blended our ingredients, this is what you're gonna get. Alright, so as you can see, it has a thick consistency, so that's what we want. Okay, so the next step is to add onions. So it doesn't specify which type of onion to use. I'm gonna be adding red onions today just because I feel like it's gonna give it a better taste for this recipe. Okay, so the way I got this piece, I cut part of the whole onion, just like a small slice, and then I cut that in half, and so this is what I got. Okay, so the way I'm gonna cut this, I'm gonna cut it kind of like you cut a pizza, but of course in smaller pieces because you want it chopped. And so you want to make sure you keep your fingers tucked in. You don't want to cut yourself. You don't want to hurt yourself. So this is what we're gonna do. Right, so as you can see, there were some big pieces that I got after cutting my onion. So what you can do, you can bunch it up and then start chopping it. So now I'm going to add the chopped onions in the bowl to our recipe. Last but not least, the final piece to our recipe is going to be low-fat cheddar cheese. So the health benefits of consuming low-fat dairy products is that it's going to be lower in fat and lower in calories. So it's going to be very beneficial for your health. So let's go ahead and add that into our recipe. All right, so now that we have pretty much all of our ingredients in here, we're going to mix it all in. So like this. So now that we're done mixing in all our ingredients, this is how it's gonna look like. So yeah, and then after that, you want to put it in the refrigerator for about an hour or two, so it can be cold and ready to eat. All right, so I chilled it in for about an hour, so it should be ready to be eaten. So you can use vegetables or tortilla chips to dip it, or you can spread it on tortilla. So it's really up to you guys how you want to use this recipe. But that's pretty much it for my video. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.